thing, so sad shame.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, sorry, we were gossiping there. Right, let me just pour a beer. I usually get this done before I start, but
Me.
yeah.
Everyone. Yes, sorry, we were gossiping.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. That was going to happen. I normally have to turn the speakers off. Right. Yes, joining us this evening, as you can see, is an old mucker of mine, Steve Hoggart. How are you, Steve?
I'm tremendous.
Good for you, mate. Right, let's see who we've got in. Excuse me.
I was a little gizmo thing.
Urgent business. Right. Who was first in tonight then? Michael Palmer. Hi, John and crew. Been to the Lake District. David Evans, Anton, Vincent Brennan, Malcolm Spillett, Craig Stayman's in. Deco Dude. Who else we got? Lee Morano. Edwin Toonan, Nigel Arthur. Robster Boy's in. Stephen Tatton. Scott Guitars. How are you, Dan? And Malcolm Spillett, Ian Clark, Pete McGowan, Phil, Big Bocky, 60s Man, Jimmy James, Chris Otterwell, Chip Young, Johnny Random. How are you, Johnny? John B, Mike Hurley, The Time Prophet, Peter Collins, Patrick Becker, Ozzy's in. Evening, Ozzy. Jason Carter, and who else? We've got Dr. G, and I think, Colin Falcon, there you are. Colin, how are you, mate? And Das Schaff. All the usual suspects, basically. So, Steve just gave us a shout the other day. I was picking his brains about some techie shit, as you say. And he said, any chance of coming on the live stream? So I said, you're more than welcome, mate. So,
nice. It's my first time at your humble abode as well.
It is, isn't it? Did you find us all right?
Oh, no bother. Yeah. It's like when you said you were near the sea breeze.
Right.
It's like we shop there every Sunday night. So I'm going to take the hound for a stroll on the beach.
Oh, first one never touches the sides, does it?
It's not meant to either.
So,
I'm being a good boy. Actually, if I just give a shout out, he was a regular on your show. He passed away in March, Rob Neal. I did a couple of albums with him, and they're doing a memorial gig for him tomorrow at the Oxy in Stockton. There's a handful of bands on. So I've had to empty the van today, fill it full of PA. So I'm going to try and be adult tonight and I'm PA dude boy tomorrow night.
Oh dear, work on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's the joys of being self-employed, isn't it, mate?
I know, yeah.
So let me just fill you in on what's coming up on the channel this week, because I always forget about doing this. I want to get this out of the way before we kick off. On Sunday, because there's no video tomorrow, with it being Saturday, on Sunday it's a rematch between the Harley Benton that you can see on the couch back there and that Les Paul that was around here for a while. Basically, if you saw yesterday's video, that you saw right at the end, both guitars in a mix. Well, it's the full solo of that. That's what's happening on Sunday. Then on Monday, we're looking at Clarence Clements' sax solo from Born to Run, but I've done it on guitar. Tuesday, I'm talking about my favourite 90s guitar albums. On Wednesday, it's a bit of a long one. It's essentially a bluffer's guide to Reaper. I mentioned last week on the stream that, if you want me to do a video on how I use Reaper, then I'll do a video on how I use Reaper. And people are saying, yes, please. So I've done it. It will probably have a professional recording engineer like this fella holding his hands up in horror at some of my rookie mistakes.
No, I just get cracked on. It's all about making the music. You can tidy shite up later on. That's Wednesday's video. Thursday's video, we are looking at that guitar back there. You can see that PRS on the end of the couch there. That's Thursday's video.
a certain person in the chat tonight knows a little bit about that guitar, don't you, Michael? Then on Friday, we're back on the beer again. So that is this week on John Robson's Music YouTube channel kind of thing. So Steve's having to watch the chat on his phone because he can't see the screen.
I'm not either fucking way. Oops, scoops, sorry, the French.
Right. Let's have a look, see what's happening in the chat. Where are we? Nightwish Lovers in. You're just talking about that gig in Stockton. John and Steve, let's put you up on screen there. John and Steve, have you seen the Soft Tube Marshall plugins? They were actually developed with Marshall and they sound amazing. I've not heard of them. Have you any experience of them, Steve?
No, the Soft Tube are pretty cool. So it's the biggest thing that I've got at the moment with all modelling this, modelling that is I've got one of them stupid Sabugi things. Mm-hmm. And it took me realistically 3 years to properly get my head around it, and I was gigging all the time with it. And I think
what boogies that you've got?
Boogie Mark 5.
Right.
I've had a few, so I'm all right with. I've had a Mark II. I've had a Mark 4. I've never had a rectifier because I've never been keen on the where the distortion tone sits. Mm-hmm. Frequency wise, the actual distortion itself, not the tone of the amp. But no, they're all right. You know, you've just got to give stuff time. And my biggest worry is people are wanting stuff to work instantly. I'm sold on bias because you can go in and tweak to the nth degree. Somebody had just put a thing in there talking about, while I'm here blathering on, Johnny Love. What's the main sound difference with the high-powered speaker versus low-powered speakers? They don't break up as quick. Generally, you'll get more dynamic range, so more dynamic attack out of your playing than 4 25-watt speakers. The other thing as well is when you're actually in the environment with the speaker cab. I've got one of the old Marshall Jubilee breakdown machine, but they did a 412. That was a 400-watt 4x12, but they also did a 1x12 that's a 200-watt Alnico Gold, and they just don't break up. There's a lot of guitarists who like that clean speaker thing and add preamp distortion to it, but it's whatever floats your boat. Plus, having 4 speakers moves more air.
Yep.
Clever shit.
And we both know of a chap who's a bit of a legend on the circuit in the northeast. A chap called Graham Russell.
Oh,
I remember seeing
he's
him.
He's been poorly, you know.
Has he?
Yeah, I think he's had a pacemaker fitted. I've got John's glasses on, or his spare. It's like every house has a spare pair of glasses. I have loads in the studio. +1, +2. -1, -2 out of both eyes.
Yeah, well, I remember seeing Graham years ago. I think it was at the Mile House pub in Stockton, and he had an EVH 5150 stack in a pub gig, and he was getting his money's worth out of it. Put it that way. Yeah. He likes it loud. I find with modelers, I play less than I fiddle. Yeah, that is a bit of a rabbit hole you can go down, Jay. I think the secret is, I've got a certain bunch of... I treat the modelers like I would treat having an amp that had 3 channels on it, because I'll have like a clean tone. For that, I tend to use the bias amp Dumble model. I have a crunch tone, which is like a plexi one, and I have a high gain tone, which is the diesel amp model in positive with bias amp. And it's like those would be the three sounds. If I had an amp with 3 channels, those would be the clean, crunch, and overdrive channels.
If I had a Dumble for me clean sound. I've actually played through a Dumble, and well, I've recorded a few anyway. But I didn't know enough because I was only young, really. So it was like the early 90s. And I just remember the guy being more worried about his... It won't have been the early 90s, but the back end of the 80s. We were at the Mill Studios in Stockton, and it was a Friday night. And it was next to a nightclub called the Waterfront. And he'd been in doing some session-y stuff for some artist. Class player, like, can't remember his name. I remember the Dumble, like. But I remember you could hear the note definition of the notes that you were playing, and it was like you had the distortion around the note.
Yep.
So it was dead clean, and when you put it on the clean channel, it had this compression that reacted to your pick attack.
That is the one thing that I do find a bit odd with Bias Amp, is that one of the most gorgeous clean sounds in it is the Dumble. Why they didn't? There's a clean Marshall sound in there. The British 900 clean, it's good clean sound. But they also have, like, kind of high gain Marshall sounds in there. Why didn't they put, like, the Dumble Overdrive Special? That's what it's called. Why isn't there a Dumble Overdrive model in there?
I wonder if it's because it doesn't model tremendously well. I mean, I have a mate who lives over in Cumbria, Andy. He's a good player, like a bit of an all-rounder. It's not his main gig playing the guitar, but he has one of them Kemper things. We were going to do swapsies for, I think he's got an old Princeton that's got the Fender little thing. Yeah. And we were going to do a swap for me Mark V for this Kemper thing and a Princeton, and it's like, we modelled it like on the Mark V. There's 3 channels, but there's 3 like modes of channels on each one. And the idea was like, I'll keep all my sounds, so I've got a Kemper. And he was like, nah, fuck it, he said that. Excuse me, French. He'll keep the Kemper. Now he's got all the models in, and all the clean stuff we did was with that Marshall. Yeah. Because of the clean headroom in it. But the other one was, I've got one of these Hesu Demon speakers that's just great for overdrive tones. It's a bit pants for clean tones.
Here's one, Steve. Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the chances of another golden age of guitar rock? I have my thoughts on that, but what's yours?
I think we could be heading back to one. I do.
Based on?
I don't know whether it's because I'm ignoring the charts as much.
Oh, I haven't paid any attention to that for 20 years.
Do you not even have like a little sniff now and again just to see what's going on?
No interest at all.
Yeah, I just think that the quality of budget guitars that you can get playing again dead quick, and the Tube of You. Yeah, you know what I mean. That seems all right. Yeah.
Well, my thoughts are that it's very hard to recreate a golden age of anything.
Yeah, I like that. Like,
let me explain. Like, when we think about the golden age of Hollywood, we think about, when they'd got all the technical issues sorted, they'd learned how to kind of do the talkies, and they'd learned how to make pictures in color, and, and that was, before TV or anything like that, there was so much at the time money. I don't know, there's money in Hollywood now, but, when the only chance you had to see like a story being told on screen was to go to the movie theater, it was a captive audience, quite literally. And, the people who were making movies back then, the Hitchcocks and people like that, they were making the rules as they went along. And, they were doing everything for the first time. And I think the 70s was the golden age of rock music, because if you think about, from 1970 to 1980, the breadth of different styles of rock music that came out then, you had like the emergence of metal with Black Sabbath. You had more kind of, you know, kind of blues-based, arguably stuff with Deep Purple.
You got punk thing kicking off.
Punk, the whole folk rock thing with Pentangle and you know, the whole singer-songwriter rock kind of thing that you know,
Van Morrison's.
And all of that emerged in that decade. I don't think we'll ever get back to something with that's as fertile as that.
No, but it'd be nice to see people playing more stuff. Mr. Evans just give us a shout. David said, "What was the pedal you referred to and put before an audio interface for a more realistic amp feel?" That was a Behringer. It's like a valve overdrive thing. And a DI box wouldn't do the same thing. A DI box really is just for changing your impedance and your level. But no, they work all right. And there's some really good pedals now that don't have valves in, that they're really getting their act together with a lot of pedals now. A tube screamer is not bad if you set it just about to break up. And you don't. I've just noticed John's green box over in the corner. You don't need to spend a fortune on a Keeley modded whatever it is, but I do think we suffer with too much gas. Like,
what do you think of the Klon?
I've got one in bits. I bought it from China for 30 quid. I haven't built it yet.
But I mean, it might look like one, but will it be one? You know, will it?
I don't know whether. I mean, I've had a Klon. It was just another pedal at the time, and I knew it was an expensive one. I'd had a band on tour, and I've been on tour with a band, and there was 2 gigs where I couldn't get my day rate and I couldn't get fuel off them. The guitarist gives a Klon, which was bonkers really to think how much it'd be worth. Now, we've seen this one, the very first, or is it the second one? It's going for something like £200,000.
Wow.
Why? You know what I mean? Why? But I like, well, a Klon feels nice to play. It's that. Just before we went on air, it's one of the things I was saying to John. One of the things is I've got older and I have less in my signal chain. I like to be able to hear what's coming out of an amp if I'm playing the tool of ignorance, the guitar. How much I dig in, and that's really me thing there, right? And I love it even more on the bass. And it's like, I mean, I play in a metal band, playing bass. I play in a punk band. I have a distorted bass tone, but I need to be able to add more thickness, more fullness, kind of into the mix of the band, not the mix desk thing. Oh, good though.
Pseudo Scott's in. How are you, mate? I've been seeing you on the chat for weeks, and I only found out this week who you actually are. Nice to put a face to the name, mate. Harley Benton are doing a budget pedal range now. They do a decent Rat clone for €20.
I love my Rat.
That was the pedal to have in the 80s, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, well, that's when I got it.
Yeah.
So it was when I heard Jeff Beck had one, because I also had when I ended up with the Frogs and playing guitar, the Space Frogs, I tried to get the Jeff Becky kind. I had a JB humbucker in a Washburn KC90, and I had a super bass head, and I ran a Rat pedal into it, and I had the JCM 800 just as though it was about to break up, and just ridiculously loud.
Yeah, well,
I know. Yeah,
I used to have do you remember that free music paper, Making Music? Is it still around?
No, not really long gone.
But every now and again in Making Music, there used to be like a glossary of terms. I remember one was like when somebody from a record label says "send us a tape," what they mean is make it a Chrome C90 and leave the tabs in. And another one in there was like, if ever you hear anybody say, "I'm a Marshall man," I'm a noisy bastard.
Yeah. There's Michael Purcell. What's my opinion on the Marshall Governor? I've just hunted one out when John wanted to do that Gary Moore thing. I saw one for sale, and I have a few governors. I have a Mark 1, I have a Mark 2, and I have the silver. I don't know where the silver one is. I think I give it away. But an original governor, the black ones with the on-off effects loop thing in it, and the 5 knobs. Everybody seems to think that a TC8 clone. They're not at all. TS8 clone. They're not at all. They're their own thing. They're more like what a clone does, but with a 3-band control.
Mhm.
They're all right. You've just got to have a faff. My only concern is when you're getting your hand in big cash like that. When I put the 2 back to back, I can't remember. One's made in Korea and one's made in, I don't know, Skegness or something. The difference was tiny, but it might be how long they last because the original one's still going.
Yeah. You ever played through a Rockman?
Yeah, I've just Mickey Tucker. I've just helped a little bit with the Rockman thing. We had a Rockman set up when I was at the mill. We had the whole, you could get like the 3. It was like a 1U rack thing.
Yeah.
And you could put your Rockmans in, and you get. They're a fortune now, an absolute fortune.
I thought, because I hadn't.
I thought you were going to start Crazy Train then.
Aye. A few years ago, I thought there's bound to be that's going to be obsolete technology now, but they sound bloody great. So I bet there's a few used ones bouncing around on eBay for pennies. Was I ever wrong about that?
Saying that, I don't know if my rat works.
No.
No, I'll have to plug it in. There's a load that I don't know because there's a reason why they end up in the shed. I contacted what they call that guy who makes the pedal boards.
Pete Cornish.
Contacted him in the early 90s. All I wanted on my pedal board was my rat, but I wanted a blend control putting on for playing the bass, and I wanted another 2 like loops that I could put pedals on, a tuner built in, and there was some like a good DI out that I could pick whether it was pre or post all the gubbins and shit, and it's 600 quid before he even looked at the pedals. He had to supply the pedals, and you're like going, yeah, I believe that, man.
It's at the end of the day. I mean, I don't want to detract from the man, but
it's all mill spec. It's great, but it's an awful lot of cash.
It's it's the sort of thing that it's wiring. It's the sort of thing we used to do at college, as college projects. Kind of switching, things in and out, remotely. It's hardly cutting edge electronics, is what I'm saying.
No. It's the bits aren't cheap. That's the thing.
Yeah.
His switches aren't cheap, and he buys loads so he can keep the cost down. But I couldn't justify 90 quid for a cable.
What?
I couldn't justify 90 quid. I paid 40 quid for a cable. I paid 40 quid. I was on tour with someone, and we were in Bournemouth or somewhere. And we were a mic cable short, and the mic cable ended up costing us 40 quid because all he had in the shop was some. I've still got it, like, it's all right. But I had a thing with Whirlwind, when I was with Hardcore.
Yeah.
They sent me like this box of stuff, and a couple of me Whirlwind cables have just joined, and that's well past their 25-year sell-by date. Like,
can I tell you about Whirlwind cables? Right. I've had so many of them that have gone south on me.
You just send them back and replace them.
Yeah, but
Can't be asked.
You bought it 5 years ago. Yeah, where's the receipt? And it's.
Well, you just send the cable back if it says Whirlwind on it. I've done that with 2 of the cables.
Really?
Yeah, none of them didn't last all a lifetime, but I used the lifetime warranty. I sent one back after I towed a van with it. It was a 30-foot cable. I wrapped it around a load of times and towed the van. Yeah.
Something tells me that's not in the T's and C's.
No, I got a giggle back off them. So, yeah, Whirlwinds last till they get nicked.
Bloody hell, John Foster's. Did you forget where Aldi is? I didn't forget where Aldi is, and I just didn't have time to get there today. I was on a bit of a tight schedule this morning because I had to go and get me flu jab.
Well, I've done mine, yeah. I think I've got my COVID one tomorrow.
By the way, I don't know if you're in, Johnny. I apologise if I've missed you in the chat, but I'm wearing your T-shirt there. Budget Guitar Show, great channel. Check him out. I'm sure you already know him anyway, but Let's put you up on screen there, Johnny, so I can read you. I like Malmsteen's post this week saying, because electric guitar is basically new, e.g. compared to classical instruments, all the greats made up their own techniques. Well, I don't normally kind of agree with Yngwie on many things,
He
but
does a lot to get a rise, doesn't he? You know what I mean? He does a lot
he is. Yeah. The thing about Yngwie is, I kind of alternate between thinking, is he really like that, or is he just kind of, poking the bear sort of thing?
It's
just
the last one.
Yeah,
definitely. I met him a couple of times, and he's dead self-deprecating. And
really,
yeah, he's a proper laugh. Dead quick-witted as well.
Uh-huh.
And he'll have a laugh with it. But his technique, oh God! I mean, to think he hasn't really improved since he was 19.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you only need one album, is what I would say.
Yeah. Well,
if you need any,
did that, didn't it? So I wasted so much time in the 80s pursuing that. You know what I mean? I get just quick Yngwie. Yngwie. One of the blokes at work was telling us that he's I work in a FE college in the north of England, and obviously all the guitar players kind of know each other who are lecturers and things. And one of the guys had gone to see the Shadows, and he said that he said he couldn't remember whether it was Rising Force or Far Beyond the Sun that they could hear getting played in the background. And our Hank walked out on stage playing the whole Yngwie thing.
He could
he's
shred.
A monster. Yeah. So the heard bits, he's seen him a few times and heard doing like Holdsworth voicings. Holdsworth t-shirt.
I thought I recognised the shirt.
Yeah, I did one of them Kickstarter things because they had a load of old recordings that were trying to get sorted out after he passed. Lovely guy.
Let's have a look, see what's happening in the chat. Apparently, Malmsteen has bought all the 59 plexis in existence.
Good lad.
Where are we? Let's have a look up here. There we go. Mine washed.
I like that one.
Mine washed me an Australian lager too. So, yes. So what you got planned then, Steve? What's coming up then?
The noisy, rackety, shouty thing.
Which one? Because you're involved in a few of those.
Yeah, the Abaddon thing. We've got a project underway at the moment that we're hopefully getting something out in the new year, and that's been fun. Because so fundamentally, some of maybe 4 of the songs recorded studio rehearsals that we're using, and that should be fun. I've got quite a bit of production stuff coming in. I've never been really a big fan of production, but it's like I'm working with a couple of songwriters, and whether I'm, embarrassing myself on the tool of ignorance and playing a bit of bass, and I do quite a lot of programming. But it's been quite nice. You get people come in that have basically they've knocked up a 12-bar on an out of tune piano at home, and they want you to do something different with the tune. I've got one of them in that's on at the moment. Getting me 6-string chops back up a little bit because I'm getting quite a lot. Songwriting as well. It's like it's helped me with the songwriting. Really.
See, I've always known you as a bass player. I mean, I've known you about 30 years.
Yeah.
And you were plinking around on one of the guitars earlier. And I said that's the first time I've seen you play a 6-string.
I've gigged. I started gigging as a guitarist, but I only went along as a roadie. And then when they found out they could get more money as a 3-piece in the clubs, they strapped a guitar onto me, and the money of the band went up, and my money went from 15 quid to 20 quid. For a kid who was 16-year-old and playing 3 nights a week and getting 60 quid when my mates who were 2nd and 3rd year apprentices were only getting 40 quid was, I was like, well, I don't mind this, like.
Yeah.
But trying to get organised a bit as well. I've been dead lackadaisical with my YouTubing things because college has been a bit weird this year, but I've got loads of stuff. I've got loads of stuff half finished as well, so I've got some of them. I remember you saying to me about if you're getting a bit of kit, break it down into things and do it in smaller chunks. I think some of my videos have been a bit long, really. But I've got my ongoing series is all finished now of the how to start a mix and things, how to mix a tune.
I'll have to watch that because I tell you what, that's the one bit, like, you know, when you get that point in a recording project where you've got that perfect solo and you've got the sounds and everything in it and it's all going well and it's like, crap, I've got to mix this now. That's the bit when I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to leave that for another day. And, you know, I've got about 4 or 5 tunes that, like, because I don't have time to, like, really properly put an album together. I've got, like, loads of stuff that I could put an album out.
Yeah, we need to get some cracked on, right?
But it's like you with YouTube videos. It's like half-finished ideas. And it's like, am I ever going to get the chance? Because for me, I can record a tune in a day, but it takes me a week to mix it.
Yeah. Well, I think if I could show you a couple of tricks with whatever DAW, setting what we call a template to do different things. I've just had a good somebody put something in there like the amp on. No wonder the Dumble owner was sweating if you were playing a bass to it. I did like, but not full tilt. He didn't mind actually because he wanted to hear Craig. Steve does have some great guitars in his collection. Yeah, I don't get my hand in my pocket dead deep for him. I mean, that Les Paul thing of mine, I know you're not a big fan of Epiphanies, but I wanted a Korean one that was made in the Samick factory. And I hunted it out, and it's got different pickups in it. It's been set up, and I've done loads with the neck and things. But that's all right. But I landed on my feet with one of them Epiphany 335 dot things. And that's nice, but they're really good. I mean, I have a few guitars that are not mine, but they're for the studio because they make such a difference in a recording. Loz Dolan out the Hangman was one of the first to get me onto different things. It was like he had this, he put an acoustic down, and we just put it a bit into the mix, so you could pull everything away from the mix, apart from his guitar, his acoustic guitar and his vocal, and the song held together. But what was really cool is when you pushed the acoustic up in the mix, it glued the song, the band together, which was quite cool. You can't really hear it a lot, like.
Well, I mean, that's something I've found out via trial and error myself. Pretty much whenever I do, although not on the Reaper tutorial that's going out on Wednesday, but pretty much whenever I do like the crunchy power chord part, I always like to have an acoustic bubbling underneath, playing this, sort of doubling it, because it adds some kind of extra dimension to the crunchy power chords. I think.
There was a thing that I can't remember who it was who produced Iggy Pop, who did that "I Want to Be Your Dog," the piano thing. Oh God, what was his name? I worked with him at the back end of the 80s.
Oh, here's a tech question for you, Steve.
Piano under power chords, just hear it anyway.
I have a little bit of hum on my guitar when recording, so I use a noise gate to remove it in Reaper. Is that likely to be a grounding issue, an earthing issue?
Could be out. You could be too close to your interface. Is it a single coil pickup? Is it a hum cancelling pickup or humbucker? Jimmy Kent, made a box for Chris Rea that you plugged into, and it was like he had like another pickup kind of thing in there, so it would work like hum cancelling. And I think you only ever made a couple of them, and that was absolutely amazing at getting rid of noise. I remember borrowing it when we played the Waterfront one time, which like you were playing on a stage above loads of beer kegs and beer pump things.
I'm wondering when we get to the Novelty Island part of the show.
Novelty Island.
Who's Vic and who's Bob?
Yeah, class.
Yeah, somebody said in the chat there, I'm trying to find it, but you're more plugged into the live music scene than I am, Steve. Are the gigs picking up over here?
Yeah. I was just listening to a podcast where it was it's really good. It's worth a listen. I mean, they're all generally jazzy guys, but Bruce Forman, who's a bebop player, is like the main hombre on it, but he's right engaging to listen to. And they're starting to see the world open up a bit. However, I was talking to, we have a good guitar tech in Teesside called Pete Wilson, and he techs for a band called the Futureheads, and they're starting to get their gigs are starting to come back in. But he was also saying, he was talking, they have their hidden chat rooms on Facebook and all that, like, and he said that there's been some big gigs. I mean, the Barrowlands was one where it was like a 35, 40 quid a ticket, and they had 100 paid for ticket no shows.
Really?
Yeah, it's an awful lot of cash, that, like, you know. But let's just see what happens. You know, we can just be hope it happens.
Let's have a look. Oh, Pete Shields is in. Where are we? Let's have a look.
Default pan and guitars in the mix. Depends how many there is.
Oh, okay. That's a one for you.
I've always liked 2 rhythm guitars, even if it's a 1 guitar band, just to fill it out. I like to put another guitar down the middle that you can't hear in the mix, but if you sum it into mono, you'll still have your guitar there, because one of the problems that you can have with putting stuff in mono is you can lose your outside things.
While I've got you here, can I ask your advice? And you're probably going to embarrass me now, but when because you might be telling me I'm doing it all wrong.
There isn't a wrong way to do it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know.
I've got away with it for 30 years.
When I'm recording a lead guitar part, I like that sort of 70s double-tracked sound.
All right, yeah.
Right?
You only want to do it once.
But if I've improvised it, I'm not going to improvise it the same way each time. Do you know what I mean? So what I do is copy and paste to another track.
Yeah, 15 millisecond delay on it.
I use 35 milliseconds.
Yeah, 35 is quite a bit, but it doesn't matter. You're using a bit of delay, you know.
But, you know, is that frowned upon? Is that...
No, rather than use a delay, if you want it to sound more like... If you solo that at 30 milliseconds, you should be all right. What you've got to be careful of is when you're doing it, get your monitors. So check your delay time till it knocks it out of phase and it cancels.
Right.
Because it can cancel depending on where the waveform is.
Yep.
So you just got to find so it doesn't cancel fundamentally.
Well, you can see my monitoring setup here now.
Yeah,
it's hardly professional, is it?
Yeah. It's bonkers, you know, John. The stuff you're churning out's really, really good. For like,
thank you.
You know, your speakers you've got. You know. I like the sub.
Yeah, for those who aren't, who can't see it from this side of the camera, I'm using a Logitech 2.1 TV, like kind of speaker system, and it just seems to work. So that's all I'm saying about on the matter. Where are we, time profit? Let's have a look, on the screen there. Recorded songs of the past, but the last recording I did, I double-tracked my lead guitar and it sounded really good. I will double-track my rhythm in future. Yeah, there's just something about that double-tracked sound. I mean, I think it comes from the one guitar sound that I'm always going for is Gary Moore's tone on Black Rose album. And if you listen to the solo on Sarah, for example, that's Gary, isn't it? I think.
I think so, yeah. I mean, what a player, though. You know.
Oh, he was just.
So this is one of the things that I've always said. I was a A-level music qualification in the UK thing. It's just before you go to uni thing, and I was an A-level examiner for 16 years. And the majority of the time you would have kids that are, 17 to 19-year-old playing in a band, and the band was a bit like, you're going to be all right. They're not going to be brilliant. Some of them were all right. But then every now and again, you would get, a college that's paid for a pro band to come in and the kids will record them. You could just shove a mic up in the room and they'd sound ace, you know what I mean? It's like, there's a lot to be said for that. And it's the same with, I've just had all the lot that I teach mixing, not very good quality recordings. And this is no slur on the kids who've recorded them in the past. It's to listen to the faults so they can identify the faults while they're going along.
What are the main faults then? What are the common pitfalls of when you're recording? If you've never recorded before, what's the 5 things you've got to avoid?
Not taking your time enough.
Yep.
So that would be one. Putting compression on when you don't know how to use it, or putting a compression EQ or any effect on when you're not using it. Not getting the right amount of gain into your unit. You want the red light on and turn it back a bit. Having crap strings on. If you're a guitar boy,
So like you're going into you've got a guitar that's going into an amp that's being mic'd up, and then it's going through a whole lot of processing.
Take your time with the mic placement.
Yep.
I think it's worthy of me doing a little mic placement, the video thing. I very rarely mic stuff up now because I've got one of them 2 notes cab things. And it's just like, it's not worth me faffing about with mics anymore because it's it's off the chart good. And the mics sound different enough. They sound different enough to give you more colours in your palette, which is all you're after anyway, really.
Right. One thing I'm sorry, I'm using this live stream as a chance to pick Steve's brains, but hopefully you're all getting something useful from it. Back in the 80s, what you used to do if you wanted to DI your guitar amp sound, it was like you put up with the fact that it was going to sound like a comb and paper or a kazoo. Then this whole kind of thing of speaker emulation came out, right? And now, what is the difference? Because now it's impulse responses. What's the difference between speaker emulation and an impulse response? Is it just new terminology for the same thing?
Yeah. It's like aluminium, aluminum, tomato. An impulse response, if people aren't really sure what it is, or like an impulse reverb. If I clap my hands in air, what I've done there, and we record it with something that will capture the full frequency range. You then, it's a posh term called deconvolution. That's where the convolution thing comes on. You deconvolve the clap, so the clap goes, and whatever you're left with is what you can have to mess about with. Well, what they're doing now, the technology's moved on that far. That's why things like the Kemper make all these mad noises at the beginning. When they're going through, what they're doing is they're capturing the frequency response of whatever it is that you're trying to capture. There's certain things that don't work very well, like delays, and that don't work very well. Anything that modulates doesn't work very well. But I have a Focusrite preamp thing, and the microphone preamps that it's got in it, class, the reviews were bonkers, but don't know. I think you've still got a really good tip for anybody out there in listening land will be to listen to a genre of music that you're playing similar to on the same system while you're working.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah, well, it keeps you grounded. I went away years with it when I started working on a PC. I mean, I'm new to this PC game. I've only been doing it properly for the past 15 years. I was never going into Pro Tools because it's so prohibitively expensive. Yeah. Anyway,
let's have a look. Here we go. Sorry, Craig, I put you up on screen there. I meant to go for another comment. Never mind. Don't. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. When Steve recorded my guitar, we cranked it so the valves warmed up. Then we tweaked and found the sweet spot before recording.
Yeah, that was speaker placement that more than out else, I think, Craig. Because it's like when we're recording you big noisy boys, I've got a room that I can put you in like a booth, and that makes such a difference. Especially if you're using your own cab. One of the things that can be a hassle here is if you happen to own an orange cab, they don't add anything to the sound because they're that well made. They don't resonate, which is part of the deal with orange cabs. That's great if that's what you like. If you've got an old Marshall that's just like flubbing about all over, that's giving you another texture of the sound.
This is the comment I was going for. Time profit again. I don't record using an emulator. I use the output of my Marshall GMP1. All hail the GMP1.
No,
and I'm going to my Focusrite. I would like to use a DI box, but I can't afford one. I was watching Jamie Humphries, killer guitar player, I think Jamie, and he was saying that when he records, he does exactly the same thing. He's using, was it 93 the GMP1 came out?
Yeah.
And he
just
uses a speaker emulator output from that.
It's fine. I have the option of two, because I have a few of these emulator things, but they're emulated out on the JMP ones. Really cool. I'll tell you what else is really good as well: the emulation on the 9000 series.
Yeah,
you can pick them 9000 series preamps up for like 90 quid now.
Really?
Yeah, not the tranny one, the valve one.
Okay.
But yeah, they're all right.
Because that was, that was when in the early 90s when everybody was saying, oh, you got to have, when you were the cool guy, if you turned up with a rack system rather than an amp,
Yeah,
it was those 9000 rack things that everybody was getting because they were just like so good and so cheap. And then the JMP one came out a couple of years after, and it was like, I still got a hankering for one of those,
Yeah, job done. Job done.
It's
with class, and you've just got to keep an eye out for them for how much they're going for. It's like the. I was dead lucky with the one that I got. So I got it off a mate, and it was still in the box, and it still had all the, where he bought it from and that, and it never been out gigging, it never been out of his teaching room. But no, good gear.
And I mean, there were some. Have you ever replaced the valve in yours?
I don't think I have. No. I have replaced the valves in them, but just to see if I could get something different out of it. My bogey needs revalving, like.
Oh, that's going to be an expensive.
200 quid touch, isn't it? You know what I mean?
To revalve. Oh, bloody hell! What do you think about what's the future of valve amps? Because
they're always going to be there because they're class.
Yeah, but they're always going to be there as long as there are factories making the valves.
Yeah, there's a couple of factories that have just started up again now, isn't it, in the Eastern Bloc?
Really? Because I heard we were down from about 6 factories down to about 2.
Yeah, they're still churning out the valves for everyone, you know what I mean? I'm not going to get worried about it now.
Because,
I love it. I just plug into an amp and course. So do I, but doesn't always fit in the mix line.
Yeah, that's when you use the DI, are your amp speakers switched off usually?
I record a DI as well. So I record a DI.
You've told me why, but you want to explain why?
Yeah, because it's dead easy to see the waveform when you're editing, and you can reamp if you're not happy with your sound after it. We did a little bit. We did too much, really, on that Gary Moore thing with Bucket. But we've got a few bits. He had an amp made for him by Martin Stone, and it's a great amp and that, like, but he's still not happy with it. But he's got this ridiculous collection of valve amps, It's but he bought a GMP, like an old one or a reissue one. Took it round to Mr. Agridge Guitars workshop. And they couldn't get it wound up. You can't get a tone out of it, even with the speaker emulator, the speaker, what we call it, like you were on about the cab thing.
Yeah.
And you can attenuate the output, just too loud. Yeah. I had You remember the Tom? We were talking about the Rockman thing, weren't we?
Yeah.
I had the Tom Schultz speaker saw, and I used to use 2 Marshalls for my bass tone. One was like not distorted at all, just dead bass, a bit like the Billy Sheehan thing. I had no idea he was doing that. Like, it made a load of sense. And I had another one that was like full tilt. And the Rockman thing, got that out the away for about 10 or 15 minutes after the gig or rehearsal before you could touch it. Class. I'd run them like, them tote bags.
Yeah.
I had a tote bag that I'd like pick it up with a pair of drumsticks and drop it in that. It had all burn marks in it.
A bit warm.
Yeah.
The blue guitar floor amp is a great new valve. Must have looked. Yeah, I've looked at those, but then I looked at the price and thought again.
It's the size of it, Craig, as well. You know what I mean? It's like, I've got so many mates and people that I know in the guitar thing. There's a chap who I liaise and chat with all the time called Mick Tucker, and he flies all over the world with Tank. And he's tried all sorts, and he's keep moving on. But he was really impressed with that. But he's a tone hound anyway. He's just like, I think he's got permanent gas because it's new guitars as well.
Well, I mean, look at the couch behind us there. I think I'm guilty of that at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, they also. But it's one of the hardest things if you just have. That's the first thing that come into my head when I was going to say this is like, just saying to the missus, don't sell them for what I told you the cost. But they are all really different. I only have 2 strats. I have a single coil strat and I have 2 humbucker strats. And they are very different. And I could do with another Telecaster because I've got a Telecaster that's got quite high output pickups in it. And I could do with the normal.
Get yourself one of them.
Yeah.
It's a Glary. Sorry, you can't see, but I'll get it down.
Yeah.
If you... Oh.
Yeah.
It's
got a satin neck as well.
Yeah. I mean, I put 30 quid's worth of pickups into it.
Are them Vansons?
Yeah.
Yeah, but a few people going on about them. See, my pickup snobbery's gone now because of your channel thing. It has.
But it's...
Hey, you talk to the man here who used to buy Lindy Fralins and things, and it's like, think how much more B you've got left after that.
I mean, it's a magnet and a bit of wire at the end of the day. But,
yeah.
I mean, that, for that sort of clanky Telecaster bridge pickup sound.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Colin on here, Colin Falcon. He's got some absolutely gorgeous Telecasters, and they're just modded Squire bullets.
Yeah, they were good guitars anyway, though, weren't they? It's just the Squire bullets. So.
Yeah, but the Bullet Series Telecasters.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But I've just had when you do something daft and you think, why did I do that? Janet says to me, have you got any guitars that you could, palm off to somebody who's wanting to take up guitar? And I had one of them, what they call them, the Lawsuit Strat.
The Tokai.
Yeah, but they were all made in the same factory, weren't they? So it was Tokai, Ibanez. And you remember a company called CSL, who were a distributor?
Oh, I remember I had a CSL Strat back in the 80s.
Yeah, well, they had Tokai, exactly the same guitar. And one of them, he didn't have the sticker on or out like that. And I set it up a little bit more, and then I got one of these. Our Glenn has this thing for the Line 6 Spider. I can't see what the problem is if you're just kicking off on guitar and you've got 4 tones that you can use all the time, and it's all right. And it's like, what they go for second hand, 50 quid for it, 40 watt amp. You can't grumble, you know what I mean?
No, Mr. Fricker does have a particular...
I love how he's U-turning on loads of stuff as well now. It's like doing sample sets for you. Don't use samples! It's like, I'm sorry, but
somebody was just asking there in the chat, what about the Harley Benton amp attenuator?
No, I never had a go. I should really have a little go, some ampy stuff. I've got that much of a backlog to get going with it at the moment. It's the tuition-y stuff that I need to get going for the kids at work as well. Plus, I've got all the industry stuff that I'm trying to get something lined up with a mate who he's was a local punk. scaffolder, gone into a show doing some rigging, and the next thing he's on tour worldwide with U2 and Madonna and the Stones and all this like, and just getting some thoughts from our Fran, really.
Let's have a look, see what other people are saying. Oh, Colin saying many thanks for the compliment. Yeah, you do some nice guitars there, Colin. You take a diamond in the rough and polish it, mate. Just got to fit some Graphtec string trees to my Harley Benton Fusion tomorrow, and then that done. No more mods needed. Yeah, I've had two of those Harley Benton Fusion guitars. I've said in the past, the first one I got, once you took that silly Floyd Rose string retainer off that was on the guitar that didn't have a Floyd Rose and was just served no purpose other than knocking out the tune, put some roller string trees on. That was a great guitar. But it wasn't mine. It belonged to the charity, so I had to let that one go. But I thought, I like them. I'll have one of them myself. And the second one was a bit of a dog, to be honest with you. But one of my students, a lad called Dan, who comes on a Sunday morning for his lesson, he's got one. And this is the guy, bear in mind, who owns that Les Paul Standard that you were looking at yesterday. That he's wanting rid of. The reason he wants rid of it is because it's like, well, I don't need it now. I've got this Harley Benton,
Bonkers, isn't it?
you know,
I think that really is bonkers.
Yeah,
yeah, and there's the reality of it.
Yeah,
yeah. Can I just butt in with this dead quick? It's a bass thing. One of the best students I've ever taught. I mean, I'm not going to name him just because I don't want to piss other students who I've taught off. He bought a Federa bass. Federa are like super boutique, made in New York. Their bog standard bass is like $4,500. He spent a fortune on one. It took like 18 months to get made. And I remember having a play. I think, oh yeah, it's really cool. This didn't see him for a while, year and a half. He works on a cruise ship still, and come back around with it. And I'd have me. I'm lucky enough to be endorsed by a chap called John Shuker. And Shuker had made me this bass, like a 5-string thing. He come in, we just paired them up next to each other. He let me know how much his Federa cost, and it was into 5 figures.
Really?
And he played me Shuker, and he went, God, he said, it's actually better, isn't it? I said, well, do you know what I mean? It's fine. Then got a message off him, just a text, and he sold his Federa, bought his mum and dad a car, and got a new bass, custom made for him. A new car.
I know.
You know what it's like? And another bass. It's just like ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, chaps, we've been on almost an hour and I'm out of beer. So time flies when you're having fun. So once again, thank you everyone for turning up and watching 2 fat lads talk cobblers for an hour. And I've got a kebab turning up soon, so I got a dash because
Dirty Kebab.
Oh, Dirty Kebab.
Well, I thought it was a great name for a pub band, that Dirty Kebab.
Dirty Kebab.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, chaps, thank you once again, everyone, for turning up. It's been a blast, as usual, and, well, you'll all see me on Sunday, and I'll see you all again next week. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.